Do you know that the ideas we incorporate as concepts and practices in Module 1 are all based on global and our own scientific research? In this video, I will explain to you some of them in details. Both me and Riri have global exposure to corporate world, education, and also realize that in schools, colleges, as well as our global exposure to India, ASEAN, Japan, US, and China, we realized that we should have learned these methods much earlier. Okay? And unfortunately, that was evident as we started working on coaching people and doing therapeutic interventions. So all of the things that we wished we had learned are included in these modules, specifically backed by global evidence and our own hypothesis-based validation of some of the ideas. There are several indicators that validate our assumptions and inclusion of these ideas in the module. First, unfortunately, there is increase in life expectancy. However, it comes with a cost of declining quality of life. This data is so clear when you look at the biggest healthcare spender in the world, the United States. US spends about 16% of the GDP on healthcare. 16% compared to India's 1% on public healthcare. However, over last decade, this is pre-COVID, America has seen a decline in life expectancy. I'm ignoring the quality of life at this point. Unfortunately, COVID has made it worse. And most of this, if you look back at last century versus this century, the primary cause of death in this century is chronic or non-communicable disease. This is very different from what happened 100 years ago when the primary causes of death included infectious disease. So the whole shift has moved from infectious disease to non-communicable or non-infectious disease. With the growing trend of increased spending, we are not getting better quantity and quality of life. Something is wrong. Second point, with increased risk for chronic disease, there is an impact on quality of life. Whether you are at a risk for chronic disease or have chronic disease, you are experiencing a problem with quality of life. Whether it is increased stress, poor sleep quality, etc., there is enough evidence backing that. And finally, the risk factors for chronic disease are mostly modifiable, which means we have full control over it. These 3 points lead us to a question: what is the primary contributor to all of this, and can we look at it? And the answer is within us, and hence the name Journey Within. All this led us to designing something that integrates how we manage the emotions, our own energy, and lead to understanding of the mind. Because all of these components are contributors to those modifiable risk factors, whether it is stress caused in the mind, or poor sleep, or increased obesity, or incorrect food choices. All of this are rooted in mind, stress, emotions, and energy. Let me cover several points and corresponding research that we cover in the practices and concepts in the module. First point, we need to understand the role of mind and the mind-body connection. This is covered through the concept of Panchakosha, that is aptly describing how the mind, energy, emotions, and the body integrate and how it influences, how these elements together influence the quality of life. In the same area, we have covered ideas from our technical note on chronic disease and the role of lifestyle choices as contributors to chronic disease. The concepts in the module cover the role of mind, understanding of the elements of the mind and how the mind works and influences the emotions, choices, body, as well as energy. Second, we cover how modifiable risk factors influence the journey towards chronic conditions or chronic disease, and what is the role of autonomic nervous system in our body that manages our functions such as heart rate, circulation, etc. in the journey from healthy or well-being or healthy conditions towards chronic disease. The autonomic function degrades, and this manifests as increase in heart rate and decrease in the heart-brain coherence. Third, we explore how heart rate increase and decrease in the heart brain coherence or the pattern of the signals of the heart is linked to autonomic function degradation. And then in the fourth point, we review the research of Brahmari, simple humming practice, in increasing the heart signals effectiveness or heart coherence with brain and decreasing the heart rate. This is backed by how Brahmari influences improved lung function, better heart function, better focus, lower anxiety, better quality of sleep. All of these are part of the modifiable risk factor list. And finally, we integrate all of this into a 4-step protocol that we call the SE protocol for self-hypnosis. This protocol has also been validated through an external publication in a peer-reviewed journal, and hence the integration of everything comes together in the daily practice of the SE protocol of self-hypnosis. We also include the ideas based on our own experience on identifying the priority for life. What is the life priority? We call it the SE life priority matrix. All of this and more is part of our own evidence-based ideas and practices that you will learn in the module we call the Journey Within. To summarize, in this module we integrate all the global evidence as well as our own understanding of the mind-body connections, the understanding of the mind, how do we manage the emotions as an emergency as well as on a going basis, and integrate that into a protocol for self-hypnosis. The reality is these ideas are out there. These ideas also need to be included in daily practices. The challenge is not whether we know about it, but the challenge is in understanding it, internalizing it, and motivating the self to continue this practice on a going basis. The results show that 2 weeks of practice of the self-hypnosis protocol helps in lowering anxiety and depression, increasing well-being, and enhancing the quality of sleep. Please join and experience it yourself. The Journey Within.